morning.
Hello, Anne.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Sorry, Chair, will I do the roll call?
If you wouldn't mind, Anne, please.
Okay, Councillor Baird,
Present.
Councillor Chair, present. Councillor Hutchinson,
Yes, present, thanks.
Councillor McGillivray,
Here.
and Councillor Morrison as an apology. Councillor Niven. Okay.
Okay, Anne, thank you. Any apology? We obviously said apologies for Councillor Morrison. Any other apologies?
No, I haven't received any.
No. Okay. Members, any declarations of interest?
No.
I'm not seeing any. That's fine. So we're moving on then. We are very fortunate today to have our Scottish Fire and Rescue local performance report. We've got Mark Levy from the Fire Service here to go over that. So Mark, welcome to the committee, and thank you for your attendance, much appreciated. Would you like to present the report to us, please? Thank you.
Yeah, certainly, Chair. Hello, Chair. Hello, elected members. My name's Station Commander Mark Levy. I obviously covered the Sutherland cluster of stations, and I am going to give you a short overview on the Sutherland County Committee report, quarter 2. The report provides an update on the Sutherland Area Committee members, the progress against the priorities outlined against the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service Area Committee plan for Sutherland. The priorities identified through a range of intervention, prevention and protection activities which are delivered in partnership to reduce the risks to the communities of Sutherland and obviously across Scotland. The report also contains previously agreed information and performance as requested by the area committees. Recommendations that the committee are invited to comment on and scrutinise the attached area performance report, and happy to take any questions on that at the end if there is any. The performance report provides the current figures for quarter 2 of 2022 and from the previous 4 reporting years from the Central Scottish Fire and Rescue Service Performance Management Database against our key performance indicators and timelines for previous reports. In achieving the priorities within the area plan for Sutherland, numerous prevention activities have been progressed by our local crews and by our community action teams. Operational retained duty system crews and community advocates are facilitating the delivery of free home fire safety visits and post-domestic instant response, both of which are aimed at reducing accidental dwelling fires proactively following the attendance at any instance. Local crews also support the partnership delivered road safety programme, and due to the hold up in the driving ambitions, we are in development of a new road safety programme. Hopefully that will be rolled out in the next couple of months. And the reduction of fire-related antisocial behaviour through targeted youth engagement activities and with thematic action plans. In addition, our local crews and community safety advocates have been proactive in coordinating local multi-agency initiatives with the aim of engaging with young people, targeting inequalities, employability issues by the ongoing running of the Youth Volunteer Scheme. In addition, crews have been continuing to carrying out and support partners in Scottish Ambulance Service by providing personnel cover during driver shortages, and we were last approached by the Scottish Ambulance Service 28th and the 29th of October for the Wick area, and those were approved after checking availability for obviously staffing for the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service. The continuing application of the unwanted fire alarm signals policy provides a means of targeting premises that the service attends repeatedly and by engagement to reduce the number of unwanted fire calls. This is in addition to the public consultation on the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service response to unwanted fire signal incidents. The performance report shows that accidental dwelling fires within our area and fire fatalities and deliberate fire remains consistent with the figures for previous years, with the incident numbers remaining reassuringly low. But with the approaching winter period, Scottish Fire and Rescue Service remains proactive in prevention. Indications are that there will be an increased activity in domestic environments alongside social factors, which may cause an increase in domestic incident response. Partnership working with initiatives such as the Food and Fuel Poverty Action Group are progressing to address these potential issues and provide mitigating support mechanisms. Special services for road traffic collisions had a slight increase in August, but totals remain low for the area in comparison to the Highland total. Although the next reporting quarter will show a significant increase due to the amount of road accidents we've been having in the A9. Sutherland crews will continue to work in partnership with a clear aim of seeking to eliminate all incident types through prevention work and targeted engagement with our partners. And crews are undertaking operational intelligence visits to high risk premises to gather vital information on hazards and risks, which significantly benefit firefighter, partner and public safety and can greatly improve operational response. Scottish Fire and Rescue Service continues to actively deliver and refine its on-call recruitment and training process to meet the national and local requirements, and key stations and communities are targeted across the Sutherland area. Scottish Fire and Rescue Service promotes campaigns with partner agencies through local media, key community contacts and continued local area support is requested for the recruitment in the following areas. So looking at Dunbeath and Leicester, Dunbeath we're sitting in a crew of 8, we're establishing at 12, so we're -4 there. And Leicester, well, again, we're -4 in that area. So we've been proactively trying to recruit within those areas. That, ladies and gentlemen, is an overview of the Q2 report for the Sutherland area for the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service.
Thank you, Mark. Just interested, some of the comments you were talking about station availability, and you were referring to Leicester and Dunbeath, which isn't part of Sutherland. I was wondering, is it the same report you're talking to?
Yeah, it's just the overall figures where they've gave us for the stations for the East Coast as it moves up. So moving through Caithness and Sutherland.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks for that. And thank you very much for the report. And of course, thank you always for the efforts that yourself and your crews do to protect the Sutherland area. It is greatly appreciated. I've got one or two questions for you, and then I'll open it up to the other members. Just a question of curiosity more than anything else, I suppose. First of all, on page 4 of the report, well, it's page 4 in our papers at least, the increase in accidental dwelling fires up to 9 for the first 6 months of the year, that seems quite high in comparison to other years. And I was wondering, is there any trend? Is there any reason that you can put towards that? Do we need some more fire prevention training or information for households? What's your thoughts on that?
Our community action teams are actively targeting these areas to try and reduce the number of incidents, generally moving into the winter season, and the way people are heating their houses to a certain degree has to be looked into to ensure that that's been done safely. But again, we're targeting that through our seasonal action plans. For October, November, obviously we're moving into older people and vulnerable persons, and then December, festive fire safety. Again, that will target domestic premises and hopefully be able to reduce those numbers.
Okay, thank you. And then there's, it's very heartening to see that no fatal incidents, which is great for the fires. The other question I was going to ask you about was, again, I'm looking historically here, and I think I know the answer. Looking at all deliberate fires on page 7 of our papers here, it's talked in 2021 there was a huge increase to 26. Now I'm guessing that's to do with the fact that we had the pandemic and people were isolating, and lots of people staying at home, and for one reason or another things happen. Just a curiosity, do you have any information on the incidence of all deliberate fires on 2021?
Just a real look here.
It was 26, which is but at least 3 times as much as other years.
Well, a lot of that reporting will come down to secondary fires as well. You know, I'd need to dig a wee bit deeper in, and I can certainly get more information and get that broken down and report back to yourself on it. When we're looking at these numbers, it can be campfires, secondary fires as well that are coming into these numbers, as opposed to sort of antisocial behaviour or anything.
I think it was interestingly, it was Q1 of that year, which is the first 3 months of lockdown, which I think must have had some kind of significant impact on that.
Well, I can certainly get you some
Again,
additional information on that.
Okay, that'd be useful. Thank you very much indeed. Also on road traffic collisions, yes, I'm glad you mentioned that your crews have been very busy with the work involved in that. We've had some serious incidents ourselves in Sutherland, particularly between Brough and Helmsdale. So thank you again for the work that you guys do for that. It is greatly appreciated. Do you ever get the opportunity to feed into Traffic Scotland or Transport Scotland to make any comments on the safety of the roads that we have in Sutherland, or is that not something that you're consultant on?
Certainly at my level, I've never been involved in it, but that's not to say we're community action teams and maybe when more senior managers are sitting on those committees to be able to sort of discuss. You know, I know the senior management team are looking very proactively at trying to reduce the number of road traffic collisions on the road, and obviously with the significant number of fatalities we've had in the last couple of months, it's certainly something we're proactively working to improve.
That's great, Mark. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, I'll open up the floor to other members. Members, we're going 3. Any questions for Mark?
Yes, Richard. My questions were on about the alarms that were being installed in houses. Has that programme all been completed now? In
regards to our home fire safety visits for high-risk premises that meet the criteria that allow us to be able to fit domestic alarms funded by the Scottish Arrest Service and obviously by the Scottish Government, we have still outstanding high-risk visits that our community action teams are continuing to visit these premises. We have had a slight issue in regard to the supply of detection due to technology, microchips, etc. That's been looked at a national level, but we're still continuing as a local area to be able to go and deliver that service to high-risk vulnerable people within the community.
Good.
High number of false alarms, any particular reason you think that might be an issue?
Sorry, could you repeat that? I never got it very clear.
Sorry, just picking up on the number of false alarms. It seems to be quite a higher number recently. Any particular reason crosses your mind as to why that might be?
No, we're unwanted fire alarm signal policies obviously being looked at present to our response, but the biggest majority of these will be sleeping accommodation. A lot of them are hospital accommodation or care homes as such. Looking into it, we give advice. We can go out the premises where fire safety enforcement teams are very proactive in respect of the time of year. Heating systems coming back online again, things like that can affect them. But we do give advice generally to try and prevent the numbers increasing. Obviously operational road risk for the appliances going down the road and members of the public. So they are, by our community action teams and our fire safety enforcement teams, are proactively trying to look at these premises and give them the appropriate advice to reduce the numbers.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, just going on from what Mr. McGilvray was on about there, Q2 seems to be particularly high for UFAs, and I'm concerned there that there's an issue, because it has been an ongoing issue for quite some time, and it's something that gets discussed at these reviews on a regular basis. So I would really welcome a breakdown on that for your next meeting when you come back to us again, just to understand, so we can help us understand exactly what kind of premises are involved. Obviously, I appreciate confidentiality and all that, but if we get an idea of what we're looking at, that would be really useful. Any other questions, members?
No.
No, I've got one more for you, Mark, just to do with the recruitment on the north and west. I know you've been struggling on the north and west coast of Sutherland. Can you give us an update on that at the moment?
Again, we've got several individuals sitting on a tracker that have applied. Unfortunately, our workforce plan department initiates all the training through that way. With the numbers that we're looking at, we've got several for each station sitting there going through the pre-selection test and then going on to task and task management. Unfortunately, taking an individual from the recruitment stage, waiting for the pre-selection tests, which can be several months, unfortunately, due to the strain on our training department. We're hoping to fill some of these vacancies within the next 6 months if the candidates we have sitting on the tracker are successful. So potentially we'll be able to reduce those deficiencies within the next couple of months with the individuals that we've got sitting on the system just now.
Yeah, I mean, I see you've got particular issues in Lochlinworth continuing, and also in Hill and Bonar Bridge regarding availability. I presume that's because of difficulties with recruitment.
Absolutely. I mean, we've identified these areas and we're proactively going out there, campaign, leaflet dropping, running local engagement sessions, trying to encourage any individuals within the area that could provide availability. We have had several instances where we've got people coming in that unfortunately just couldn't meet the contractual obligations that they would require for the on-call, but we're certainly proactive in every area that we're deficient of personnel just now.
Okay, that's fine, Mark. Thank you very much indeed for that. Members, is there anything else before we let Mark go?
No.
No?
No, thanks.
Okay. Well,
okay,
thank
Chair.
you very much, Mark.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. You're welcome to stay if you want, but I'm sure you've got other things to be doing.
No, but thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, members, item 4 on the agenda is the Bonar Bridge to Argyll speed limit proposal, and we have a report here, and we've got Josie from the Roads Department to come and deliver it to us. Welcome, Josie.
Morning. Morning. Yes, morning everybody. Back again with this report, or another variation of it, having had a look at it again. So hopefully some members will remember we started looking back at this 18 months, a bit more ago, following the request to reduce the speed limit to 30 mile an hour through the whole length between Bonar and Argyll. So the first report I brought the recommendations following that assessment. The technical guidance and recommendation was that we could extend the 30 at the Bonar Bridge end out beyond the hub, but the section in between didn't support anything other than a reduction down to the 50 mile an hour, in that, you know, it has to be self-enforcing, and just, you know, by signage that would be able to be delivered without extra reliance on the, you know, the police enforcement and putting a lot of effort, you know, work on them. So from that committee report, members agreed to extend the 30, but wanted to hold off with the 50 and further explore reducing the speed down to a 30, but also challenge the legal process and whether we could just stick in an order that went against the guidance and the technical guidelines. I think we came back in November last year saying that we could put in promote a traffic order that didn't comply with guidance. However, if members wanted to go with that, there's a statement of reasons that justifies why you're putting this, and the members would have to come up with a statement of reasons. It's part of the legal process. Following on from that, there was still this desire to reduce it down to 30, but at the meeting, I think the outcome was that we look at a 40 as a compromise, but members were advised that traffic calming would have to go in to enable the 40 to be enforceable. and I was to go away and look at what traffic calming measures would be required and what the costs would be to implement them, because currently the area budget would support promoting a traffic order, but not traffic calming. There's no budget for that. So this report is bringing back to the table the traffic calming measures required to implement the 40, and there's a plan to show just how much traffic calming is required, and also what the cost at current estimates are. So the traffic calming would be required is a build out, so we're narrowing chicanes, of which 12 would be required throughout the remainder section of the road between Bonar and Argyll. And just for a point of reference, the chicanes are similar to what's gone in Dornoch, just in between the school and the village, that kind of narrowing down to a single track. So 12 of them with associated lineage and signs would be going in. And as I say, at the current prices, we're looking at 192,000 for that. That is just to build in these build outs. The cost of the traffic order hasn't been put into there because that would be absorbed anyway as part of the area budget. So that's where we are. My recommendation does still remain to put in the 50, because at the moment that would be signage, which we could do and deliver. We would also enhance the gateway feature, you know, the gateway signage going into either village at that end. But that's where we are at the moment. That's what it would cost to bring it down to a 40 and implement that. I would also like to highlight that to implement the traffic order, it is a legal process and it does go out to consultation with statutory bodies, emergency services, the Freight Transport Association as part of that. And following that statutory consultation, it does get opened up to the public as well. And at any point, you know, anybody can object or support. But if we do get objections, we do have to bring them back to committee to try and resolve. You know, it's just because it gets, you know, whatever we propose, the outcome is today. We could get objections to putting a 50 in. We could get objections to the 40 and the traffic calming. So that would come back to a future committee. You know, see how we resolve them. That could do it. It has stopped some in their tracks. You know, that can happen. So it was just to bring it back. But this was following on last November's committee report. So.
Okay, Josie, thanks for that. A question for you. It's been suggested to me that there are incidents or places across Highlands where the 40-mile limit exists already without calming measures. So what is it about this particular area that would require that to be in place?
What I would say is, what is it about the other areas where they've gone in and they were probably put in either before the guidance and legislation were adhered to? You know, we have to play by the rules that much more, and so there's probably legacy ones that are out there that have gone in, or there might be the study in the background has supported it for various reasons. I mean, without knowing them and looking into what's going on and how long they've been in there, you know, I can't comment. All I can say is that standards change, and if we put something in that doesn't meet the criteria, you could have a speeding campaign done and the first person could challenge it and you'd find that it's not lawful and then nobody could get charged. That's the worst case scenario on the legal side of things, you know. And also the police would turn around and say this is completely ridiculous and we can't enforce this because there's got to be an element of self-enforcement, and we can't sit here all the time to make sure it's adhered to.
Okay, thanks, Rosie, and thank you very much indeed for the report. I know you put a great deal of effort into pulling this all together, so I do appreciate that. Okay, I'll open up to other members. Questions? Anybody? Can you show your hand first so I can prioritise, please?
Yes, Richard, I would like to come in here. Running it through the community councils, Creech would definitely want to get this up and running as soon as possible, and their suggestion is for the 50 mile an hour from the hub, from the telephone exchange to our guy.
Okay, Michael, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions for Josie? No? Okay.
I'm always a bird in the hand approach to life. So take the first thing and offer, and then see what we can be done after that. So I must admit that the extended 30 and the 50 is something that can happen now.
Yeah.
Meets some of the concerns without addressing them all, obviously, but it's a start.
Yeah, I'm of the same opinion. I think that if we have the extended 30 mile an hour provision in place, and then reduction from 60 to 50 and in the remainder, then we can see what kind of impact that has, and then review it in times to come. But like Councillor McGilvery, I'm very keen to move this on and to get something in place rather than have nothing at all. And as you said yourself, Josie, we've been talking about this for 18 months. And I take up an awful lot of your time. So that's I think, time to move it forward. And I would certainly want to propose that we go with the recommendations as laid out in the report. And I'll just read them out for everybody so everybody understands what they are. And it's only one. Members are asked to agree the remainder of the national speed limit between Bonar Bridge and Argyve be reduced to 50 miles per hour. Now, that's obviously in conjunction with the extension of the 30 mile an hour limits that we've already agreed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Members, do you have agreement on that, or is anybody otherwise minded?
Agreed.
That sounds reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. Okay,
yeah, it's what we can do is once we've got it up and running and implemented, it does have to go through the statutory consultation period, but we can then run another traffic speed assessment to see the impact of it. It hasn't. Interestingly enough, the majority of the vehicles are doing 49 mile an hour under the 60. So by extending the 30 and putting it down to a 50, it would be interesting to see what the results are from that one in time.
I think it's also worth noting that we've had a number of people saying to us that the biggest concern they have is the log lorries which are going across that piece of road. Yeah. And I think we should remind everybody that the speed limit for these lorries is 40 mile an hour anyway.
Yes.
So they should be complying with the speed limits anyway. Yeah. So I think what we're looking at here is reducing the speed limit for normal cars and small commercial vehicles, and not the big lorries that should be up here into the 40 anyway.
Anyway, yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Josie, much appreciated.
No, thank you. It's been a very worthwhile exercise looking into it, because I'm sure it will impact on future requests that we've gone through this process. So never wasteful time. Right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Okay, members, moving on. The Achmelvic car park mandatory charging is the next report, is item 5. I think I saw Shane there. Shane, how are you? Welcome to the committee.
Good morning, members. Okay? Yes.
Do you want to go over this report for us, Shane? Thanks.
Okay.
Okay. It's quite straightforward, members. So I would hope that you will be aware by now that there's a committed effort to improve facilities at Achmelvic, and that includes doubling the capacity, putting fit-for-purpose facilities in place, etc. There's a little typo in there. I don't know if it was probably mentioned at the beginning, but the funding for this project will be considered at the E&I committee on the 10th this week. I'd noted it as the 22nd. Unfortunately, the date's changed after I drafted the report, so I do apologise, members. So in summary, to support the council's financial commitment to this project, and we're looking to fund capital borrowing from revenue, so there's not a capital burden on our existing capital budgets or future capital budgets. And to do so, we would require to convert the invitation to pay car park to a mandatory charging car park. And the fundamental reason for this committee item is members need to be informed whenever we are proposing the enforcement of mandatory parking charges as per council policy. But like all traffic regulation orders, this will have to go out for public consultation. So I will publish this tariff and make everybody aware that it's changing and it will become mandatory. It will go through the community councils and we'll put it in the press. And subject to any response to that consultation, I may or may not have to come back to committee to rule on the subject, just like the speed limit order that Josie was talking about. If I can't resolve the objections, then it's up to members to take an opinion on the objections that are submitted. So in short, we're wanting you to note that I'm going to go through this statutory process, members, and I've indicated in the paper what the level of tariffs will be, and it will be basically 9 AM to 5 PM 7 days a week will be mandatory charging. So it's daytime hours. It'll be £3 for 4 hours, £4 for 6 hours, and £5 for 8 hours. And all vehicles manufactured or converted for the purpose of sleeping will be prohibited from using the car park after 10 PM at night until 8 AM in the morning. That stops, deters motorhomes from parking overnight and allows us to obviously enforce if we find them in there as well. That's, in summary, that's what the paper is, members, and I welcome any questions.
So you put yourself on mute, Shane.
Can you hear me there?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Yeah. Where did I get to?
I think you're more or less come to the end. It was just you were talking about no camper vans after 10 o'clock.
Right. So that's the only element that we will be able to, obviously we can enforce that at the moment, but I'm making it clear in this paper that we're maintaining that situation at the car park. There's already a traffic order on that car park. What we are actually technically doing is amending it and moving it from the free column, or as it is at the moment, the contribution donation column, and moving it into the mandatory column in the traffic order, which allows us then to issue a penalty charge notice if somebody doesn't pay and display. So that's the paper, members. I welcome any questions.
Thanks for that, Shane. Only question I've got for you is, given the remoteness of the car park we're talking about, how do you actually enforce this mandatory charging?
Well, we now have an officer covering the West Coast, so to speak. He's based in Ullapool. I know that's and he's the one who will be attending these car parks. So, you know, he will be visiting that site probably up to 3 times a week in the summer. And it will vary as well, be random when he turns up. So nobody sort of see a pattern for when he's going to be there. So we do have a resource now embedded on the West Coast. As I say, he's based, his centre of operations is Ullapool.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, I'll throw it over to particularly interested what the members from Ward 1 have got to say about it and what their thoughts are.
Can I just say that I'd like to offer support to everything that's in the report. I think living in Assynt, I'm well aware that people are just absolutely delighted to hear that things are starting to happen at Achmelvich. And it has been discussed at the Community Council in Assynt, not the amounts because we didn't know that, but there was absolutely no objections to the concept of having mandatory payment at the car park. They saw that as a necessary thing and another controlling factor in what happens up at Achmelvich. So I welcome the report and agree with it.
Okay, thank you for that, Marianne.
Yes, I likewise support the report.
Okay, thank you for that, Michael. Okay, members, if there's no questions for Shane, just remind you what the recommendation is. Members are asked to agree the proposal to advertise the necessary amendment of the 2016 off-speed traffic regulation order, which will prescribe enforcement of mandatory parking charges at the Achmelvich Beach car park in Sutherland. Are we able to agree?
Yes, agreed.
Yes.
That's great. Okay, Shane, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Shane, for coming along today. Much appreciated. It's I think this is a good step forward, so thank you.
Chair, thank you all. I'll just add a little bit of detail for you on the wider invitation to pay. Members will be receiving a committee item at the end of the financial year, informing them exactly how much money we've done and how much money you'll be expect to receive for the next financial year. So I hope we can look forward to meeting again on that subject.
Yeah.
We've turned over 26,000 to date for Sutherland, and a further nearly 4,000 for the Common Good site. Obviously, that goes straight in the Common Good Fund. But we've done 26,000 for the Sutherland sites. After costs, etc., that's about 11,000 for the committee to date. But we'll have a final number for you at the end of the financial year.
Good.
I much appreciate Shane. You just reminded me I was going to ask that question, so thank you for that. We'll look forward to hearing that report.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, members.
Thank you.
That's a good reminder. Okay, members, we're going on to item 6 on the agenda. It's the Southern Place-Based and COVID funds. If you recall, we did discuss this previously about repurposing the Sutherland Place-Based Investment Fund and COVID-19 funds for cost of living support. You want to present this?
Yes.
Alison Clark is going to give us a wee rundown on that in a moment. Thank you, Alison.
Thank you, Chair. I will do my best in Phil's absence to introduce this. As the Chair's already said, you have had a discussion about this already. The purpose of the report is about repurposing place-based investment fund monies and also previous COVID-19 monies. Section 4 of the report sets out what was originally agreed around the place-based investment fund and the priorities. It also highlights where there have been underspends or unallocated spends against both in Ward 1 and Ward 4. In terms of the COVID Ward Discretionary Fund, members may recall that this was a fund that was very active during first phase of COVID. There was then an agreement at a meeting of the Highland Council that you could repurpose those funds at your area committees for any balances that were left. So section 4.1.3 sets out the balance of both of those funds that are remaining, place-based investment fund and also COVID Ward Discretionary Fund. There have been local discussions, both in your area business meetings, but also in the wider community partnership. I know a number of members have been taking part in and through the food group and also the fuel poverty group that exists there in terms of the challenges that are facing Sutherland communities in relation to the cost of living challenge at the moment. So the proposal is to repurpose those funds to develop a cost of living support fund for Sutherland. Members will recall at the meeting of the council in September, there's a Highland-wide cost of living support fund at the moment. So these monies would complement their existing fund that is Pan-Highland, and it's proposed to launch this one towards the end of 2022. There will be additional support above and beyond the Highland Fund and the support for projects that will be unable to access the Highland Fund once funds are exhausted from that. So members, the recommendations are set out at section 2 in the report, and it's to consider and agree the repurposing of these funds for cost of living support as detailed in the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks for that, Alison. I think it's really important that we utilise this funds to the best and to support families and individuals who are struggling over this winter. So I think, as I say, we have discussed it already, but does anybody have any questions or any comments they would like to make?
No.
Positive, yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's straightforward. Okay, as Alison has said, we are asked to consider and agree the repurposing of COVID Ward Discretionary and Place-Based Investment Funding for cost of living support as detailed in the report. Are we happy to agree?
Yes.
Agreed.
Thank you, members. Okay, moving swiftly on. We're now on to item 7A, which is the Donna Common Good Fund consultation on proposal to dispose by sale of a 56 metre square or thereby of land at Tairuri. And we have Sarah Murdoch, I think, online, who is going to present this report to us. Sarah, are you there? Hello, Sarah, can you hear us? Okay. Sarah, could you possibly be on mute? We can't hear you at the moment. No, we seem to have lost Sarah. Alison's going to give us a quick run through. I think we have been made aware of this already, but Alison's going to give us a brief overview of it.
Thank you, Chair. So, members, you'll recall that there was a public consultation on the proposed disposal of this piece of land. The feedback and the outcome from the consultation is detailed in paragraph 4 and also in the analysis of Appendix 1. There were a total of 5 responses received, including responses from the Community Council. Overall, the responses received were very positive in terms of the disposal of this piece of land. Certainly the Community Council confirmed support by majority. There were 2 representations that were fully supportive and raised no issues. One, there was support but queries raised to be answered by the Council, and also one representation that objected to that proposal completely. So, as I say, the majority of comments were in support to dispose, noting that the piece of ground doesn't have wider community benefit. It's very much in the past has been linked to that particular residential piece of residential accommodation. There was a query raised regarding the valuation, and another person objected on the basis of that common good land should be retained in principle. So the Appendix 1 sets out those comments received in detail and also the proposed responses to those comments. In section 6 of the report, it sets out the potential options available to you as members. You could agree to the proposal to dispose as a set out. You could propose to amend the proposal, and that would be subject to a further consultation, or you could decide not to go ahead with that. So the recommendations are as follows in section 2. First one, to note the outcome of the consultation, to approve the responses to the representations in Appendix 1, and also the recommendation is to agree the proposed disposal as set out in the report. Okay,
thanks for that, Alison. Remember, we have been made aware of this. We've been consulted throughout the process, but it's really going to formalise that. Does anybody have any questions or comments to make?
No, just as there's always been an unwritten rule that Dora common good land should not be sold. But times have moved on. I think that this has been very thoroughly consulted. Community Council take their view as well. And I think the income to the common good will be, at this point, be very gainfully used, I would say, and also on. Plus, the amount of common land now in Dora has increased substantially in recent years with the acquisition of the old abattoir site and the Ellscross Wood, the station wood, for public occupancy. So I think this is a case where we can actually proceed and pull in the funds.
Yeah, thanks for that, Jim. I would echo that sentiment. The fact that we know that this particular piece of ground has been used as a garden for this particular property for years. Nobody else has access to it. It actually doesn't serve any purpose for the common good at this time. And I think through consultation we have delivered a fair remuneration for the disposal. So I would be happy to agree with the recommendations. Councillors online, do we have any comments or any thoughts on this?
No, nothing from me.
No, okay, members, in that case, we are asked to note the outcome of the consultation process undertaken as detailed in paragraph 4 and contained in the analysis at Appendix 1, approve the responses to the representations raised in connection with the proposal as contained in table in Appendix 1, and agree the proposal to dispose by sale of a 56 metre square of thereby of land at Tyree, 8 Wells Street, Dornoch. Are we happy to agree?
Yes.
Agreed.
Agreed. Okay, thank you, members. Okay, moving on is item 7B, Dornoch Common Good Quarter 2 monitoring, and Alison once again is going to be thrown into the fray for this one.
Thank you. Members, this is a relatively short report for this quarter. The main focus is on the income and expenditure to the common good over this period. So the main thing to highlight within this report is regarding the income. It is above the predicted income, the estimated outturn. that was set by the budget back in February, and that is due to a couple of things. One, there has been the reimbursement of sales and land building legal and professional fees, and also there's the invitation to pay income from the Dornoch Beach car park, and that's detailed in Appendix 1. So the estimated outturn is higher than the agreed budget for those particular reasons. In terms of expenditure, all expenditure is on target for the year and expected to be on budget.
Okay.
Happy to take any questions.
That's fine. Thank you, Alison. Any questions, members?
I'm quite
No.
concerned, but I await in anticipation the new rental money coming from the Dornoch Golf Club in 2023.
Okay, thank you for that, Jim. Okay, members, that's a very straightforward report. Thank you, Alison, for that. It's all very positive and very encouraging. So, members, we are asked to note the position of Dornoch Common Good Fund at the end of the second quarter for the year 22-23. Are we happy to do that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sarah, I noticed you on screen. I think we did have you, then we lost you, and Alison has actually stepped into the breach and delivered the report for us, so that recommendations have been agreed.
Perfect. So everything was all sorted. Sorry about that. Yeah, I have some delay, I think, sometimes on my Teams. So it's a bit temperamental, but if the report's gone through okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Joys of technology, but thanks for joining us anyway. Thank you. Okay, members, we've got one more item left on the agenda, and that is the minutes from the last meeting. Do you have any comments or any concerns about the matters here and withheld?
No.
Or withheld? Agreed?
Great.
Okay. All right, members, that brings us to the end of our meeting. Very short and sweet. That's 50 minutes. I'd like to see a little bit more in our meetings content. I think there's more things we need to be discussing in Sutherland.
I think as we move forward to the council grant on the estates in this area, then we'll have more to talk about.
Well, I think certainly it's food for thought, John. I would say I agree with that. Okay, members. Right. Well, thank you very much, members, for joining us. Much appreciated, and I'm sure we'll all catch up again in the very near future.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you now.